Greetings, everyone. Well, last time we had quite a treat, didn't we? We talked about the two anime classics, Vampire Hunter D and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Yeah, great stuff. I really do enjoy horror anime, and those are two of the all-time greats right there. So we're just waiting for Sam to give us the signal. There it is. Let's head on down to the crypt and see what we have in store for today. How's it going, Sam? Wow. Well, thank you very much for picking the two Vampire Hunter D movies there. That was that definitely helped me to cleanse my eyes and my sanity after the Alien versus Predator fiasco. So what have you got for us today? Oh, I see. Continuing a bit of a vampire theme here, are we? Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, this was a series that I was introduced to when I was in residence in university. There was a girl on my floor who really liked it, and she was kind of trying to sell me on it. And I saw bits and pieces of an episode here and there, and it didn't really grab me at the time. But, well, I eventually warmed up to it, and I guess I'll give you the whole story in the full review. But what I'm talking about here is what started as a TV movie starring Rick Springfield entitled Nick Knight. But this is just kind of a little bit of sprinkles on top of the icing and the cake, because the real meat of this is the series that followed, inspired by the TV movie, and the series expanded on and went into far more depth and well, recast pretty much everybody, and became something of a cult classic, which I love. I'm of course talking about Forever Knight, seasons 1, season 2. And season 3. They call it the Trilogy. Sorry, Sam, I didn't mean to bump you there. So, there you go. The entire series of Forever Knight. And we're going to talk about each episode in depth today. No, just kidding. We're going to basically just do the little sort of overview thing and give you a little look at the sets here and whatnot. Yeah, today on the Multimedia Chronicles, Forever Knight. Welcome back. Forever Knight. Yeah, this is basically my entire Forever Knight collection here. Those of you who frequent the Facebook page will see that I posted a picture of this a little while back. So yeah, essentially what we have here is the original pilot movie starring Rick Springfield entitled Nick Knight. All 3 seasons of the TV show. I believe there's 70 episodes total. The soundtrack CD, which is very cool. I think there's actually 2 soundtrack CDs. I've only ever been able to find the first one. Might have to track down the other one if that is indeed the case. And then this beautiful piece of painted fan art, which you'll get a closer look at all of this stuff when we do the closer look at the packaging. But yeah, my introduction to Forever Knight was actually when I was living in residence at Ryerson Polytechnical University back in the mid-90s. I think it was when the first season was first airing. One of the girls on the floor, on my floor in residence, was really into it, and I think I mentioned this earlier, but anyway, she was really into it and tried to explain it to me. It's like, yeah, basically it's about this vampire who's been around for like 700 years, and he's essentially tired of being evil, so he becomes a cop. And I was like, really? That sounds ridiculous. And, you know, I watched a few bits and pieces of some episodes, and it just didn't really grab me very much. It wasn't until a few years later, I guess it was 1996, when the 3rd season was airing, I was really into Vampire the Masquerade. I didn't really play the games very much, but I really enjoyed the novels and some of the spin-off merchandise of it. And to me, the look and feel of the world of Forever Knight was very similar to Vampire the Masquerade. So for that reason, I kind of latched onto it as it was on the way out, you know, because of course it was canceled after the 3rd season, and that was that. But But all throughout the third season, I watched it pretty faithfully because to me it was like, wow, this is very similar to Vampire the Masquerade in a lot of ways. Not as robust, obviously, because Vampire the Masquerade, you had like a lot of different clans of vampires, and it was like this whole subculture of vampires living in secret among us, essentially. Whereas with Forever Night, you have a comparatively small vampire population, but they are in somewhat influential positions at times. So, what you have here is basically the story of Nick Knight, who is a 700-year-old vampire who wants to make amends for all of the evils that he has committed throughout the centuries. So how he decides to do this is by becoming a cop on the night shift and helping right wrongs in the city. One of the things I found interesting about Forever Night is the fact that it was filmed in Toronto, and I was living in Toronto at the time, so I recognized a lot of the locations. But unlike a lot of times in the past where things would be filmed in a Canadian city and then the Canadian city would just be sort of a stand-in for New York or LA or something like that, Forever Night, they actually set in Toronto. So it's filmed and set in Toronto. I guess they just figured, why would we bother saying that it's another city? Why don't we just say it's Toronto? Done. And then they could actually make use of the actual, there's a lot of great locations in Toronto. It's a huge city. And they could actually make use of the locations and refer to them by name. And that's what they did. So that was another thing that I found kind of fun about it, being a Torontonian at the time and having spent a good chunk of my life there. It was just a nice treat to see all these places that I had been to and that I was familiar with and such. And so that was pretty cool. The thing that I found interesting about Forever Night is that it would often juxtapose present-day events of some case that Nick was working on with events from his past. So there's a lot of period piece stuff in it as well, in addition to the modern-day, detective story of the week or whatever. But the thing that I liked about it was that it gave you a lot of insight into his past, and he would often think back. I mean, he's been around for 700 years. He's got like just reams of experience with different people in different situations. But often when he would be working on a case, he would think back to some event from his past that was similar, or that shared some common elements with the case he was working on, and it would relate in some way. So how he dealt with the situation back then might not necessarily be the best way to deal with the similar situation in the present and things like that. So you get this sort of running biography of his life as a vampire throughout the centuries, juxtaposed with him trying to make amends for his past evil deeds in the present. So in the flashbacks, you often see the evil deeds that he committed back in the day, and then again, I just love that word. Juxtaposed with the present day story shows how he's in a similar situation now, but he's going to try to handle it differently and, do the good thing instead of the bad thing. And it's just very well played out. Like, considering the core concept, when you first hear it, sounds very silly. I thought it was very well executed, and I really enjoyed watching the whole thing unfold. And yeah, it really surprised me just how good it actually was. I mean, you have a terrific cast. You got Nick, and you have Lacroix, who is basically the vampire who turned him back in the day, and you have Jeanette, who is a just stunningly beautiful, gorgeous, sexy as hell French vampire who Nick was involved with for quite some time. I think they were actually an item for about 200 years. And so they essentially, in the present day, Lacroix is basically a late night talk radio host who just sort of muses about life and humanity and such on late night radio. Calls himself the Nightcrawler. Very cool. Actually, the soundtrack has a bunch of clips of Lacroix as, in his Nightcrawler persona, into some of his various musings. And then you have Jeanette actually runs a nightclub for vampires. So a lot of the vampires that exist in the city frequent the club. And there's a few cases where humans kind of wander in and get in trouble. But it's a lot of fun. So essentially, Lacroix is sort of amused by Nick's quest for redemption, and he's just sort of like, yeah, whatever. You've been evil for 700 years. You're just going to suddenly turn good. Like, come on. And then, so he just kind of tolerates Nick's little, he sees it as a distraction. That eventually he's just kind of like exasperated. It's like, oh, whatever. Okay, fine. Go pretend to be a good guy for a little while, and I'll wait until you come to your senses. And and that sort of raises an interesting question. It's like, okay, bear in mind that Nick has essentially been evil for about 700 years. So the period of time that we see in Forever Knight really is only a few years. Like just a drop in the bucket compared to how long he's actually been around, So it stands to reason that it very well may be just he's bored with being evil and he just wants to try something different. I mean, it's easy to see him as the hero just on the surface, but if you dig a little deeper, one almost wonders, it's like, is he actually turning good, or is he just tired of it all? He's just tired. Because, I mean, it does seem that he is tired. And one of the sort of subplots going on is he befriends, I guess, a forensic doctor who is trying to find a cure for his vampirism. She's one of the few who's sort of in on the secret. And she's trying to find a cure for his vampirism for him. And he wants to just become mortal and live out his days as a mortal. And that's the reason I say it's sort of questionable is because that's what he wants right now in the time period that the story mainly takes place in. But if you go back through all the flashbacks and such, he's always got these different whims and wants and needs and desires and things. So who's to say that this is a permanent thing? I mean, it's interesting, and that's one of the things I like about it is there's a lot of layers to the characters, and as you work your way through the series, you see a lot of these layers unfold, and it's a lot of fun. So the first two seasons primarily, you notice it kind of got, I think one of the things that killed the series was it kind of got stuck in a reinvention hell. We had the original TV movie first off, which was basically sort of a self-contained story, and then it was a couple years later they decided to make a series out of it. So the first two episodes of the series are basically a retelling of the TV movie story, just with the TV series actors in the roles, and the ending is slightly different, leaving it more open-ended for being the beginning of the series. But then as each season came along, there were changes. Like, for example, the police chief or lieutenant that was his boss changed every season. Like every season, he's got a new lieutenant. His partner is the same in the first two seasons. Actually, John Kapelos, the only actor to carry over from the TV movie, and then in the third season, he just disappears. It's sort of explained away in dialogue, but then he's got a new partner in the form of Tracy Vetter, who is, I can't remember. I didn't look up the actors' names. I apologize. It's been a while since I watched it, too. I know it's Geraint Wyn Davies, however the hell you pronounce his name, very unusual, plays Nick. Nigel Bennett plays Lacroix, and I can't remember who plays Jeanette. Anyway, I'm sure some of you hardcore Forever Knight fans will correct me up the yin-yang in the comments. And then you have the actress who played Tracy Vetter. Lovely blonde actress. I've seen her in a number of things. Yeah, very, very cool. But just a collection of excellent Canadian actors. And so, yeah, you have a different lieutenant in each season, different partners in one of the three seasons, and there's also a third vampire character that appears in the third season. And Jeanette, who figures quite prominently in the first two seasons, only appears, I think, in one episode in the third season. So there was a lot of shakeups, a lot of tweaking, a lot of retooling that occurred over the course of the series, and I honestly think that's what ultimately killed it, which is unfortunate. But the good news is, I guess they got sufficient warning that they were being canceled, because there is an actual proper finite final episode. There is an ending to the series. So it does have a proper beginning, middle, and end. In fact, if you look at the boxes here, they don't refer to it as seasons, they refer to it as the trilogy, as if to imply that it was always intended to be 3 seasons, which of course I'm sure it wasn't. But, that's the way they basically chose to market it. And I kind of like that. It's different. And I like how the design is quite nice and uniform throughout. But again, we'll take a closer look at that when we look at the packaging. But yeah, in the end, I guess it's safe to say I definitely warmed up to Forever Knight. And, after watching the first season quite faithfully, I really wanted to go back and see the early seasons. And for me, it was unusual because I was so used to the cast from the third season that seeing the completely different cast in the, for a lot of the supporting characters anyway, in the first and second season, I was like, wow, this is quite different from the third season. So I kind of experienced it in reverse from what I think a lot of fans did. A lot of fans started at the beginning and were all up in arms when they changed everything in season 3. For me, I started with season 3 and then was all confused when they everything was different in seasons 1 and 2. But yeah, it's good stuff, definitely. I mean, if you're a vampire fan, you enjoy a good modern day vampire story with some with quite a lot actually of period piece elements, I highly recommend Forever Knight. I don't think you'll be disappointed. The DVD sets are still available as far as I know. I was able to get them fairly cheap on eBay, and I think it's also streamable through Netflix if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, check out Forever Knight. Alrighty, well, let's take a quick look at the packaging, and we'll come back for closing comments. Okay, so this packaging overview segment might go on a little bit long because we've got a lot of packaging to go over. So let's start with Nick Knight, the TV movie that started it all. So we'll try to keep it brief and to the point. So there we go. This was, of course, released through Anchor Bay, long out of print, but managed to snag it fairly cheap online. And then inside we have that, and this looks like an actual proper movie poster, which I'm thinking might have been for international release. I know a lot of times TV movies from over here will get limited theatrical runs over in the UK and stuff like that. So, and then we just have the chapter selections on the back. So very cool. So that is Nick Knight, starring Rick Springfield. And very nice. Alright, so now let's get to the TV series, because I know that's the one you really want to see. So the TV series they refer to as, let me see if I can move it up just a little bit. There. The TV series they actually called the Trilogy, and rather than doing it as seasons. But of course each set is one season. And there you go. So the way this works is it just slides out. Very nice. Just a nice box. So let's move the box aside. And you can see, actually, get the light just right. Yeah, there. You can see that the logo, it's mostly matte finish, but the photos are glossy, and then you have gloss to give you the logo on there, which is quite cool. And then here again, you can see that it's a combination of matte and glossy. It's very nice. So if we just open this up, you can see exactly the same thing here. We get the logo on each page, and it's just basically a big digipack. So then we have the discs. You have a booklet, which I'll show you in a moment. And there you go. So the entire season, I think this is 22 episodes spread across 5 discs. So very nice. So here we have just a nice little episode guide, which breaks down in very fine text, just to basically breaks down the plot and cast and primary cast and crew for each episode on the discs, and then it gives you a little blurb for others there. And then here we have another insert, which is just an ad for other TV shows on DVD. And that's that. I missed my soap collection. I ended up selling that one last year. Oh, and there's a few more. Yeah. And SWAT is finally getting a second season, apparently. And Larry Sanders has been released in its entirety. And Mad About You has had more seasons since. Yeah, anyway, we won't go into all that. It's other topics for other times, perhaps. So, hold it all up. Slide it back in the box. there you go. So that's the Trilogy Part 1. Now, if we go to the Trilogy Part 2, it's much the same thing. The main difference being this season had more episodes than any other, I think. Yeah, this one actually had 26 episodes, so it was considerably lengthier. And that's pretty cool. So again, it just slides out. We'll give you a quick look at the back. Again, like nice batch of special features on there. Yeah, they didn't have a lot of special features on these sets, but you know, enough to please fans. So again, we have the shiny logo on there on the matte finish. If you look at the front, same kind of thing. They basically follow the exact same visual design for each season set, which is very cool. Lots of artwork throughout. Oh, Jeanette, she was so freaking hot. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So there we go. So just in this case, I think we have we actually have 6 discs, and now I'm not going to bother making them all perfectly aligned because we don't want to spend forever on this. So here again, exactly the same as the first season set. We have a breakdown of the episodes and like that. And if there's any significant special features like commentaries or whatever for a particular episode, they tell you in there. And then here again, like the first set, we have Spider-Man. I actually have this set here, which has the complete set of the that particular Spider-Man series. But who cares? We're not here to talk about Spider-Man. And then, as you can see, there was a few more seasons of some of those shows released since. And then a lot of fans were concerned that we would never see Season 3 of Forever Knight put out. But of course we did, much to everyone's surprise and delight. It did seem to get a lower print run, though. I noticed it does seem to fetch slightly higher prices online. And, you know, got there. I like to just set it there for a second so you can pause it and read it if you want to. And there you go. It's very nice. So again, just slides out. This one was done a little bit differently. We actually have a nice brighter logo. And then here, same thing. Season 3, of course, underwent some cast changes and whatnot, so you'll notice some new characters there. So that's kind of a different approach, not so much of the cast pictures on this one. And then here we have candles all throughout, which is actually quite cool. And then, so this is again 5 episodes. This had the fewest episodes of all of them, I think. It's 22 episodes. And yeah, so 22, 26, and 22 respectively. So if we take a look at the booklet, again, we have exactly the same kind of stuff. And here we actually have some like properly tied in, you know, similar genre stuff advertised on the back, which is nice. And then and again, I really like the consistency of the packaging in all 3 sets. I mean, they obviously put some thought into that and made sure that it was all consistent. I mean, there's little differences throughout, but overall the design is consistent and looks good on the shelf. Yeah, and you can see that this came out a little while later because there's a lot of stuff here that was not released at the time, and like these ones since came out in complete series sets. Never buy these complete sets, by the way. The packaging is terrible on them. Just get the individual season sets if you want those shows. Yeah. But Forever Knight, you can definitely get the sets because they're beautiful. Let's take a look and see if we can squeeze all 3 of them together here. Yeah. Well, almost. Yeah, there we go. Ta-da! But see, like, it's all beautiful and all lines up quite nicely. And if you look at the spines, there, the spines all line up quite beautifully as well. So while we're looking at the packaging, I thought I'd give you a little bonus look at some stuff here. So I do actually have, I think I did 2 soundtrack CDs, of which I believe this is the first. So I do have a soundtrack CD of Forever Knight. This is very nice. It has some of Lacroix's narration in it, as well as lots and lots and lots of instrumental music from the show by Fred Mullen. And then if we look at the insert here, there's actually quite a lot of good stuff. You can see all the different tracks in there. Lots of photos of the cast and photos of the crew and of Fred himself, with various cast and crew and stuff like that, and working on the music. And very cool. And then you can see some other ones. Crescendo Records did a lot of obscure soundtrack releases like this, which is great stuff. So that's some of the other ones there. We got Friday the 13th the series, some Hellraisers, Quantum Leap, Tales from the Dark Side the movie, and Super Scary Monster Party. So some good stuff there. And then you can actually see Nick's police ID badge. How cool is that? So that's pretty nice. Definitely makes for some good spooky listening. I always like the music in this. I thought it was very, it's a little bit synthy, a little bit gothy, and full of melancholy instrumental goodness. And then finally, last but most certainly not least, I actually have this cool painting, which is, I guess, a bit of fan art. Hard to get it all in there. Well, if we do it like this, you can see the whole thing. But it is actually a limited edition numbered print. There was only 100 of these made. And then on the back, I actually do have it signed by the artist as well. Her name was Betsy Mott. And yeah. So this was picked up for me by Annetta a while back. I can't even remember where she got it, like a used bookstore or something. She just saw it and thought, oh wow, Sean would love that. So she just grabbed it for me, which was very nice. I'd like to get it actually properly framed. I mean, it just has this sort of this matte border around it, but I would like to get it really properly framed. But anyway, I wanted to give you a bit more of a close-up look at it. I know I did post a picture of this on Facebook a while back, but I wanted to give you a more sort of up-close and personal look at it. There's, of course, we have Nick and Jeanette and Lacroix. So very cool indeed. And then even the CN Tower in the background, which is quite nice. So there you go. That's the beautiful piece of fan art that I have. I think it's quite nice indeed. Okay, maybe not so quick a look at the packaging, but there was a lot of packaging to go through. Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, I could sit down and talk about Forever Night at great length. I mean, I'm just trying to give you sort of a general summary here and give you an idea of what the series is like and such. One of the reasons I say it's like Vampire the Masquerade is primarily because whenever Nick would visit the nightclub, the Vampire Club, it became apparent that there's a lot more vampires living in the city than is readily obvious. And part of that is that they have to keep their existence a secret, otherwise, they would be killed, obviously. And that, to me, rang very similar to the concept of Vampire the Masquerade, where they're living in secret and they have to be cautious about who they take into their trust and who knows of their existence and things like that. So there were elements of it that were similar that I enjoyed. So I enjoyed Forever Night for much the same reasons that I enjoyed the stories based on Vampire the Masquerade. It just sort of seemed to have that same flavor to it, Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Forever Night. It rocks. I love it. There you go. Alrighty, that's it from me to you for now. So until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara. Oh hey, I kind of forgot to do something, didn't I? Extras! Are there any extras on the DVDs? Well, let's find out. First we have, of course, Rick Springfield as Nick Knight in Nick Knight. And special features, we have full frame presentation. That's not a feature. Forever Night, the Trilogy, Part 1. We have nothing. All 22 episodes. That's it. Bare bones. Forever Night, the Trilogy, Part 2. This one we actually do have some special features. We have audio commentaries with show creator James D. Perriott and stars Geraint Wynne Davies. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I know I'm butchering it. And Nigel Bennett. Yeah, so Nick and Lacroix himself, along with the creator of the show. Very cool. I don't think I've actually listened to those commentaries yet. I should get on that. You've also got an About the Show featurette, which is a nice little behind-the-scenes piece, interviewing pretty much everybody of note from the show. Very cool. Questions from the fans, in which the show stars and creators answer questions from the fans, which is very cool. And previews. I think previews are just for other stuff, not necessarily Forever Night related. So yeah, so Season 2 actually does have a nice little extras package. And then finally, we have the Trilogy Part 3, where we have 3 music videos. Black Rose, The Hunger, and Touch the Night, which I believe were songs that were all made specifically for the show. So there you go. So not a lot of stuff there. The main thing, if you want extras, are in the second season set. There we go. There we go. Very nice. But yeah, overall, great DVD collection that no Forever Night fan should be without. Alrighty, well, that is definitely it from me to you for now. So thanks for watching again, and sayonara. Again. See you next time.